because the state of Israel is from the river to the sea. That's a factual thing. It is not a desire in the way that the Palestinians chant it. It's a factual thing. It comes from the League of Nations, the United Nations, the original mandate, and how the mandate was handed over to Israel on the 14th of May, 1948. I was having a chat with this lady on Friday night. I'm going to play its 2-minute video, and it'll give you the context of what the pro-Palestinians want. And it is a free Palestine to 1948 borders. And the question is, what does that mean?
It's all part of taking over Gaza. It's all
By who?
by the baboon, Trump. The red baboon.
He is going to lead the peace board.
He can stick it up his ass. We're going to carry on fighting for Palestine until Palestine is free.
You said you're not giving up till Palestine is free. What do you mean by Palestine? Give me the boundaries. And what do you mean by free?
Right, listen to me. 1948, Balfour Declaration. Who sold the Balfour Declaration?
I'm asking you to give me.
I'm giving you the history.
You're not. You're asking me questions.
No, I'm giving
Just
you the
tell me
history.
the answer from your perspective. I
was
don't.
sold by the British to the Jewish, to go in and take over. So they've gone in and they have taken Palestinians by force out of their homes to take over their home, and then the IOF came in and started killing and bombing. So this has been going on not since the 7th of October, since 1948. So Israel never existed. If you look at history, no, it didn't.
Well, it might have
It did.
done 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly. It did exist, but you are masking all of the pogroms against the Jews by Arabs, by Muslims, ever since the 7th century, and including in between the beginning of the 20th century and 1948. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of fighting back that the Israelis did, and there was terrorism that the Israelis did with the Irgun. Absolutely. It's history, right? What the United Nations determined was...
That Israel is a terrorist state.
No.
Yes, they did.
No.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
What Israel
Yes, they are.
determined was there are two states.
Nah.
One's Palestine and one's Israel.
One state.
And Israel immediately, that's your perspective, yeah? That's what free means, yeah? And what Palestine means, one state, yeah?
1948.
So run by the Britons.
No, run by the Palestinians.
The legal foundations of the State of Israel and the rights of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, CSPII. That is the YouTube channel, and the name of this video is Israel Legal. Is Israel legal? Do the Jewish people have the right to the land of Israel? If anyone demands we want 1948 borders, the answer must always be, yes, please, that would be lovely. Really lovely. The legal borders of Israel, not only in 1948, but right now, stretch. You might not like this. Some of you might like it. Some of you might not like it. They stretch legally, factually, historically, from the river Jordan to the sea, the Mediterranean. And that is the jurisdiction of the Israel state from the Palestine Mandate and from the League of Nations and from the United Nations. That is what was signed off in 1948. Everywhere from the River Jordan west to the sea, including Judea and Samaria, or if you call it the West Bank, and including Gaza, that is Israel, run
by Israel. The land of Palestine is legally Israel's. However, Israel was never given the chance to prove herself. On the very day of independence, on the 15th of May 1948, 5 Arab countries invaded with the intention of wiping Israel off the map. They had earlier told their Arab brethren within the land in advance to leave, and it would all be over within a couple of days. And they'd be able to go back home, build their own society, because Israel wouldn't exist. Everything would be hunky-dory. And over time, the Arab states expelled their Jewish communities, over 850,000 people, and Israel did not let 700,000, 750,000 people back in, because it didn't want a bunch of people that wanted their state to be annihilated. But the Arab countries' plan failed. Israel not only endured 18 months of fighting against 5 much larger coordinated countries, Israel excelled eventually, but through strength and whatever. Strength, luck, little bit of help eventually from somewhere. She overcame. And this catastrophe suffered by the 5 Arab states was called the Nakba, their catastrophe, their shame. The war, however, didn't end without wider cost, over and above many lives lost. Gaza was annexed by Egypt. Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley were annexed by Jordan. Now, here's an interesting one. Those are the original occupied Palestine territories, illegally occupied by Egypt and Jordan. As is very clear when you understand the legal basis of the State of Israel. Because the State of Israel is from the river to the sea. That's a factual thing. It is not a desire in the way that the Palestinians chant it. It's a factual thing. It comes from the League of Nations, the United Nations, the original mandate, and how the mandate was handed over to Israel on the 14th of May, 1948, and then it ended. It had to be handed to the nation that was going to go forward with the area. How did that change? Well, there's been a lot of PR. There is a big Islamic control of the United Nations. And there's a suicidal empathy pact of a lot of Western leaders who represent their countries in the United Nations. And that's converted every truth into its absolute opposite. So since then, Israel has been subject to numerous other illegal invasions by Arab countries, time and time again. Israel's subject to constant ongoing attacks by terrorists who claim they are resistance fighters undertaking a global intifada. Israel has offered the two-state solution twice. No, two-state solution 5 times, I believe. And of course, there were a couple of times before Israel was actually independent that it was actually offered. And the Arabs have turned it down every time. And in essence, the Arabs have proven over 80 years that they refuse to live alongside the Jews, alongside Israel, despite the 2 million non-Jews, Israelis, who live much safer lives inside Israel with full human rights, full participation in society and democracy and voting, and the freedoms that our liberal democracies offer all those places that are liberal democracies. You don't get them anywhere else. What do the Arab states do? What do the Gazans do? What does the Palestinian Authority do? They demand that they are the Palestinians, when actually the only time Palestine was ever a state, the Palestinians were the Jews. They demand, is Israel occupying those territories, despite the fact illegally occupying those territories, the West Bank, so-called, and Gaza, despite the fact it was Egypt and Jordan occupying those territories that were the illegal occupied territories. They claim Israel is the terror state and the colonizers, when actually the terrorism comes from the other side, from the Arabs, and the whole process was to get rid of colonization, courtesy of, prior to 1919, the Ottoman Empire and the UK Empire and the French Empire and the Portuguese and the Spanish. Every single one of these claims by those people on the Palestinian side is either wrong in law, wrong in fact, or wrong in when you look at the actions that the people take that are totally counter to what the protesters actually say or what the PR is. And they all continue to demand the end of the Israeli state. The implication of this is, if the United Nations or the Western states or whoever actually succeeds in making Israel fall by the wayside on the basis that the mandate was wrong, hello Qigong, on the basis that the mandate was actually wrong, and there were lots of mandates all at the same time, over the same period. If the mandate system was wrong, then if Israel falls, so must fall Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Kuwait, Turkey, Yemen, and Iraq, where the mandate system is the way of transitioning powers back to independent states from colonizers and empires. So you want to get rid of Israel on the basis mandate system was wrong. You've got to get rid of the rest of it if you're not going to be a hypocritical little something. And the bottom line, Israel claimed its independence on the 15th of May 1948. It never had the chance for even one day to live peacefully alongside her neighbours and to prove that she was a good neighbour and they could all get along and they could trade well and they could work well together, and there's no need to hate, and then there'd be no need for all of the shit to go down. It never happened. Those 5 Arab nations invaded on the day of independence. Israel never had the chance to show what Israel could do on the basis that things might be peaceful. The Arab nations have guaranteed that there will always be a problem in that area because of their actions, where there is no way that Israel can do anything but make sure that she is defended, strongly defended. The Arab nations have used PR, global institutions, and a lot of money to persuade the world somehow that their fight is just. when this was all about splitting up the Ottoman Empire, the ones that lost the First World War, and the ones who were maintaining the empire that had lost the First World War. And it was now up to the powers that had won, the Allied powers, to determine what should happen in those areas. What were the nations that were going to be there? Who was going to be running them? And one little sliver of that was going to be Israel. And those same Arab nations that lost in the First World War as part of the Ottoman Empire. And then they might have been on the side, some of them may well have been on the wrong side in the Second World War as well. They were now going against Israel. And of course, the Allied powers were knackered, tired, unable to deal with it, didn't want to have to deal with it. So in the end, Israel is a small sliver of land where the Jews and Israelis are known to hail from. There are documents and books that go back 3 millennia. We still have some of those. Only the Jews are evidenced to have inhabited that region since that time, 3,000 years ago, even when it was under other invaders' control. And the Arab and Muslim claims to that land are solely based on colonialism, their desire to eliminate the Jews, and the long-standing supremacy desire of Islam to be a caliphate once more. This is the interesting thing about these pro-Palestinians that shout about being anti-Zionist. Zionism, in their regard, in principle, if you're not going to be a hypocritical little thingy, Zionism is no different from Arabism. Arabism is we must have that land, not the Jews. Whereas Zionism has reasoning going back 3,000 years. Our mandates produce countries. So World War I ends. Yeah, the Ottoman Empire was already creaking, and people were getting in place to actually deal with things once the Ottomans had lost their place. So World War I ends, the Ottoman Empire loses, the Ottoman Empire disappears, the League of Nations arises, the nations coming together, and they determine that there is now an end of empires and colonialism. They need, because of what happened with World War I and the allyship of different empires together, different colonialist powers that lost, there was a determination at some point that actually it's not right to be a colonizer. It's not right to have an empire. So there was a transition phase and methodology put in place that allowed, or that intended to deliver, that these colony lands would become independent states. And one of those was the area of Palestine. And there were lots of others throughout Africa, throughout Asia, throughout the Americas. So the question is, if there was this process and it has worked, it's worked for all of them, why is Israel and Palestine still an argument? So the mandate system, on the basis of the Ottoman Empire, showed or produced a bunch of different countries. Yemen, given independence in 1918, Egypt got its independence in 1922, Turkey in 1923, despite being the leaders of the Ottomans. Iraq, or Mesopotamia as it was at the time, became Iraq 1932. Lebanon in 1943, Syria and Jordan in 1946, Israel in 1948, and Kuwait in 1961. This is the League of Nations original January 23rd, 1923 document, the Mandate for Palestine by the League of Nations. It's the title deed of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, and a territorial solution for 2 states, 2 peoples, 1 Jewish, 1 Arab. And it was Article 25 of the League of Nations Mandate for Palestine. There was an original 2-state solution. There still is a 2-state solution. It is in place. It is there right now. The Arab state, the Palestinians, as we now like to call them, the Arab state is Jordan and Iraq and Syria and Lebanon and Egypt and any of those countries around there. The Arab area. The one little sliver that's not Arabic is Israel, which would be the Jewish state, in a place called Palestine. Article 25 requires the division of land. So the first picture, the big blue one, is what Palestine was at the time. That was the British mandate. That's like, and then the picture with the yellow at the bottom is the 2-state solution, the British mandate. Jewish settlements permitted in the orange area, and Jewish settlements excluded in the yellow area, because that's Jordan. That is the original 2-state solution. One of the interesting things about it is the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights originally was in the British mandate as part of Palestine. But in 1923, that was from 1920, but it was one of those where it's like, this is a draft bit, we need to really sort this out. And it actually got transferred to the French mandate in 1923, not 1922, as this yellow picture says. The region, the yellow area, partitioned away from Jewish Palestine, was called Transjordan Arab Palestine. That's their place. That is the 2-state solution. So the Article 25 required division of the land between the two. There it is in a bigger picture. So September the 16th, 1922, Palestinian Jews in the Jewish Palestine. Look at that yellow area. Arab Palestine is Transjordan, later called Jordan, with Arab Jordanians. The yellow area is Jewish Palestine, the Jewish state that would be Eretz Israel, as put in the mandate, September the 16th, 1922. Israel announced its independence the day after the mandate ran out. So the mandate was basically split into 2. Transjordan, Jewish Palestine. And under the United Nations in 1945, in exactly the same map. Anybody tells you that there's this other different map, they're not telling you the truth. Through international law, it says Palestine 1946 here. I got 1945 under the title, but this is even a year later. Palestine, that area in red. Those are the territories that were agreed in the United Nations Statute of 1945, Chapter 12, Article 80. Modifications of frontiers without agreements are not permitted. That leads to questioning of things like, what if Keir Starmer recognises the state of Palestine to produce a new two-state solution within this little slither of land? What does that mean when the United Nations is unable to modify these frontiers unless Israel agrees? So you may well have heard that a lot of people talk about United Nations resolution. Is it 181 or something? I don't know. The one where they've got this map here, this funny map with a big massive area which is surrounding Jerusalem. That's Arab land, and then there's the Gaza Strip. That's Arab land. And then there's this bit that comes down the border with Egypt, Arab land. This was never ratified. This was a proposal. This was a plan of partition with economic union by the United Nations Special Committee of Palestine, UNSCOP. Guess who disagreed with it? The Arab states disagreed with it. They prevented it from coming in. Anybody tells you we want to go back to 1948 borders, this might be what they're meaning in some ways. In some ways. But it's not, because this was never taken up. This was agreed by Israel. But the Arab states, the Arab League, said, nope, we got to get rid of Israel. This whole map is irrelevant. When they put those four maps together, 1, 2, 3, 4, look how Israel has stolen the land. That first one, or the second one, is this one here. This was on the table, but it never got taken forward. It was a plan. It was a possible. It was a let's do it. And it was rejected. Don't let anybody try to push this plan on you. This map, because it's a load of bullshit. The mandate process has an end date written into it within the document. The termination of the mandate. So the termination of the mandate here says 15th of May 1948. On the 14th of May 1948, the British handed the control of Palestine, Eretz Israel, to the Israelis, to the Israeli people, to the government that the Israeli people had put in place. And on the 15th of May, that government claimed independence and it was ratified. So at the end of every mandate, the future nation that is named within the mandate gains their independence and gets given that land. Israel was reborn instead of it being Palestine. And yet, very same day, or the next day, there was an Islamic Arab invasion with the objective, in red, to conquer and destroy the state of Israel. This was a written objective by them. There would be no attempt to create an independent Arab or Palestinian state on what would then be the illegally occupied territory of the state of Israel. But it didn't work. Thankfully, it didn't work. And ever since then, from then to now, 1948, 1922, when the mandate was written, there's been a lot of fighting going on, illegal invasions, constant terrorism, Islamic and Western attempts in coercion of Israel, in pushing and bullying and all the like. But Israel's borders have not changed since 1948. Legally, they've not changed. River to sea. Puts a whole new context on what Netanyahu was saying. He wasn't going, we want it river to sea. He's going, it is. It's just a fact. It's a fact of history. It's a fact of law within the United Nations. And even Oslo I and Oslo II confirmed it. Israel is sovereign and it is all Israel's territory. There may be subdivisions of territories, Judea, Samaria, Jordanian Valley, Gaza Strip, and according to administrative competencies, split up into zones A, B, and C. I think that's Judea and Samaria. But these agreements do not refer to territorial sovereignty, only to administrative competence. Who will administratively run the land? The sovereignty and the territory still belongs to Israel. The agreements don't refer to borders, just who's administrating it. And the second bit is the self-government agreements. So there might be international recognition of the PLO, but there isn't a recognition of their nationalness, because Palestine is not a nation and it's not a state. Not anymore. That ended in 1948. The only time there was ever a Palestine was the Palestine Mandate under the League of Nations. So the Palestinian Authority is the sole representative of the people, the Palestinian, the Arab people, as a counterpart in talks between Israel and the Palestinian people. But you've got to remember that the Palestinian Authority don't recognize Israel or the Jewish nation, which is a bit of a blocker, really. It prevents agreements from actually happening, because the person who's going to sign the agreement suddenly realizes that one of his extremist nutters is going to take him out if he comes anywhere close to signing a fucking agreement with a state and a people that are not recognized, that are seen as subhuman to the Arabs, that are seen as dhimmis, that are seen as not even humans. I might have said that twice just by using different words. But Israel still holds the rights to all territories A, B, and C. And Oslo II says negotiations between the parties are to eventually resolve the territorial issue, but only in accordance with resolutions 242 and 338. No imposition can be imposed of the borders by other parties, other countries, the United Nations, or the European Community, or the United States for that matter. The current borders, river to sea, are Israel. The National Charter of Palestine, which I'm pretty sure is not, it's not the Hamas Charter. This seems to be a Palestine Authority Charter. So representation of all Palestinians. Article 9, armed struggle is the only way to liberate Palestine. In other words, the state of Israel, to get rid of the state of Israel, to obliterate it, to genocide the people, to ethnic cleanse the area. This is the overall strategy, not just a tactical phase. The Palestinian Arab people affirm their absolute determination and its firm resolve to continue the armed struggle and to work for an armed popular revolution for the liberation of its country and its return to it. Article 21. The Palestinian Arab people expressing itself through the Palestinian armed revolution. And yet, think back, there was already a two-state solution of an area that had lost a war, where you go, yeah, well, we're saying you're going over there. You've got Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey, Jordan, Kuwait, Egypt, and any of the other 20 Arab states, Muslim states, whichever one you want to call it. You can go to any of them. But no. The suicidal empathy of the West keeps listening to all these emotional arguments instead of having put their foot down and gone, this is it, now get on. The Palestinian Arab people expressing itself through the Palestinian armed revolution rejects all solutions that replace the total liberation of Palestine, the eradication of Israel, and rejects all proposals that aim at the liquidation of the Palestinian cause or its internationalization. And that is such a vague set of words that they could say that that applies to absolutely anything. Anything and everything. It's like, what? What does that mean? So you can basically say, you could just claim, no, that's aiming at the liquidation of the Palestinian cause. That's aiming at the liquidation of the internationalization of the Palestinian cause. What do you mean you want to stop the protests? That liquidates the Palestinian internationalized cause. Therefore, we don't agree with anything. And therefore, we reject all solutions that try and do that. We just want to be victims. We want to be seen to be victims forever and ever. I think that's it. Oh, no. Oh, no, this is an interesting one. The Palestinian people were not a people recognized as such by international law during the Mandate. That's because they were known as Arabs. They didn't choose to call themselves Palestinians until 1964, when the PLO was formed. The people who were Palestinians at the time of the Mandate, at the time of the production of Israel as a state, the Palestinians were the Jews. It was Jewish Palestine. Jordan was the Arab area. The Palestinian people were only recognized by the international community in 1970 by the United Nations. Until that date, they were an Arab people, indistinguishable in religion, culture, or language from Jordanians, Syrians, Egyptians, Bedouins, which still happens to be the case today. The UN resolution under international law stated the territorial integrity of a state cannot be questioned by the claims of a people. Therefore, the Palestinian people born, in quotes, in 1970, i.e. Palestinians, Palestinianism only became a thing for the Arab Palestinians in 1970. As such, because it only became a thing in 1970, it's not possible for them to claim anything going back to 1948, because they didn't exist then. They were just Arabs. And actually, they're still just Arabs, along with the other billion, which doesn't make them a minority.